of our 5 panelists here. And so one, I think, is having some travel issues, so bear with us. But we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all again for joining us. This session, as you probably know, is titled Interfaith Peacemaking Perspectives from Around the World. So we're very excited that you've joined us because, as you know, the Parliament is an interfaith convening. And in particular, we try to drive towards peace, but peace means very different things based off of the context you're in. And so this brings together a set of panelists who are all working on peace in their own unique ways, in very different contexts. Each comes from a different geography, many from different faith backgrounds, and working on very different issues, or a variety of issues. And so through this, in the next about 80 minutes, we hope to share with you a bit of their stories, as well as do a bit of question and answer with them. I have a few questions I would like to ask them as their moderator. And I'd also like to leave about 20 to 30 minutes to hear from you all. I'm sure you all have things that you want to ask each of them. So the structure of this is we're going to first do a set of introductions, and then I'll do a quick introduction of each of our panelists, and then I'm going to ask each of them to take about 5 minutes to introduce themselves, share about a bit of their background in the work that they do, as well as how they approach peace. And then I will ask them a few questions, and then we'll open it up to the audience, and then we'll wrap up from there. So if that sounds good to everyone, I'm going to start with our introductions. I'll start from this side and make my way over here. All the way to my right, we have Hushman Badi, who is joining us from Scotland. He is an academic and a lecturer of economics and business management for 25 years, and a member of the Baha'i faith. He has worked at the grassroots level, as well as explored the academic definition of spirituality in factors affecting the current global financial crisis and other issues related to justice and trustworthiness. Seated next to him, we have Devi Mohan, who joins us from Slovenia and India. She is president of an international charity, the ACT or ACT Foundation, a core member and senior teacher of the Himalayan School of Traditional Yoga, and an active member of the international spiritual mission of her husband and spiritual master, Mohanji. Over here, to my left, we have David Garrido Mazmicha. David resides in Barcelona, Spain, and he has studied law, and in 2006, became one of Spain's youngest judges. 10 years later, in 2016, he became certified in coaching. Today, David exercises his role as a dream mentor, which is a new professional profile that advocates for an integration of mind-merging psychology, coaching, spirituality, religion, magic, occultism, and personal growth, with the law of attraction being one of his central pillars. Seated next to David, all the way to my left, we have Imam Abdul Karim Shefiu Majemu. He is the founder and co-executive of the Strength and Diversity Development Center in Nigeria, and co-founder of the Interfaith Initiative for Accountability and Transparency in Nigeria. Imam Shefiu is actively involved in several of the most critical issues facing Nigeria, including efforts to resolve the bitter farmer-herder conflicts that are convulsing in the Middle Belt, the reintegration of former Boko Haram fighters and reconciliation with victims, and efforts to engage religious actors in national anti-corruption efforts. And myself, I'm Nikhil Dom. I'm currently based in Washington, D.C., where I'm a social impact strategy consultant. And I can say I have far less experience in peacemaking than any of the individuals here, which is why I'm simply a moderator and not actually going to share my own perspective. My background, however, is I do a lot of international development and social impact work, with a particular focus working with corporations and foundations on integrating strategies for business and social impact in agricultural development, financial inclusion, and global health. I also have the honor of serving as one of the trustee members for the Parliament of the World's Religions. So to start with, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to come up here to the center for their introduction and take about 5 minutes. And just to be respectful of everyone's time, I will be playing a bit of timekeeper. So make sure that we hear from all of our panelists about equally. And so when you come up to the center, please introduce yourself, share a bit about your background and organization, and also answer the question. Peace is a very broad concept, meaning different things to different people and with many different facets. As you think about interfaith peacemaking, how have you chosen to define peace, Or what aspect of interfaith peacemaking do you focus on, and to what end? So I'm going to start here with Hushman Gabi.
Well, I'm very excited to be here for the first time in a Parliament of World Religion, coming from Scotland, in Glasgow. My name is Hushman Gabi. I am an economist, and I try today to combine my profession as an economist and my passion that ethics and spirituality should be the foundation of policy making for economics. But for the first question, I'm going to raise that question, that do really people want peace? And if we go tomorrow to the street and raise that question from people, do you like to see peace, a total peace, tomorrow on planet Earth? I think we will have 4 categories of people. The first category will say that we love peace, but that's not possible. Because they believe that human being and the nature of human being is aggression. War was always a normal way of life. We used to have peace here and then, but peace was not a normal way of life. It was war, it was violence, it was conflict. That was a way of life. So they believe that aggression is a nature of human being, and peace is not possible. The second group may say that we love peace, but not too much of it. They may say, I'm working in an army. I work in a gun factory, in arm industry. If there is total peace, I lose my job. That's not good for the economy. The third group will tell us that I love peace, but after getting rid of my enemies. And that is a conditional peace. That yes, I love peace, but first I have to get rid of my enemies. Now, if you look at these 3 categories, that is a real obstacle, a real barrier towards creating peace. How can we have a lasting peace when people believe that aggression is a nature of human being? For us as people of faith, if we look at the scriptures, in the Old Testament, we read that we are created all in the image of God. In the New Testament, we read, love thy neighbor as thyself. Muslims are instructed to be kind to all people. Hindus and Buddhists are taught to be kind to all creatures. And it is a duty of Baha'is to associate with people of the world in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. So from a scripture point of view, if we are created noble, if we are created in the image of God, aggression and violence cannot fit the image of God. In the Baha'i community, that concept of peace, the concept of peace must become a culture. And we start with children. The children should raise with an attitude that aggression is not a part of human being. We cannot change people of 50, 60, 70 years old, but we can change children. We can start from children. Children should raise up that aggression and violence is not a part of human being. I attended a conference in University of Jerusalem, and I interviewed with a couple of people. The conference was about peace and reconciliation, about Israel and Palestine. I talked to the Israeli and I said, what do you think about peace? And he said, we are peace lovers, we love peace. And I said, what do you think about Muslims? He said, they are our enemies, we have to get rid of them. Next day I talked to a Muslim. I asked the same question from him, and he said the same thing, that the Israelis are our enemies. If children in Israel and Palestine grow up with that attitude, that they are our families, they are our neighbors, they are our friends, if they raise with that attitude, when they grow up, peace becomes a culture. And that's what we need. We need to have peace to become a culture within us. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful to be here in a grace-filled space of 10,000 people gathering here from 100 or so different religions, spiritual paths. Just walking around this huge conference hall, we get the idea of the beauty of diversity of humanity and our chosen paths to live our divinity, to worship divine, omnipresent within us and around us. I feel greatly humbled to be here and greatly honored, especially because I do not come only as Devi Mohan, I come as a representative of the global foundation called Mohanji Foundation, which is basically all about a man who is, for me, not just a man or my husband. He represents the very essence of the Guru principle. And it is my own spiritual experiences that I have understood how nature works and what this really means. So I hope I will be able to convey this to you in a few words. Mohanji is also for me a platform. Mohanji Foundation is a platform that brings joy, fulfillment, inner peace, and transformative techniques to many, many people around the world. And I believe that only that what is experienced and that passes through the filter of our inner experience is only real for us, right? We all honor various scriptures, teachings, but do we really live them? That's the question. So for today, I have challenged myself not to have any written speech and not to speak anything that is not my own experience. Because I believe when we preach something, we should also live it, right? So even if it's one small tenet to one of the religions, we should live it so that we have the right to preach it. So I also come as a yoga instructor, and I'm really happy to see the way yoga has bloomed and blossomed around the world and is being recognized as one of the ancient sciences that actually bring us into alignment vertically, bring us into alignment with the actual essence of peace. So peace cannot be achieved if we first don't look within and we don't look where this absence of peace and everything that brings the absence of peace, where is it coming from and why is it coming? Right? So we have to start with our own inner journey. And it's beautifully explained in Islam, the jihad is the inner journey. Jihad is the inner fight with our enemy within, right? So that's one of the things. When I understood that, I shifted from my postgraduate studies and peace studies, I shifted to the science of yoga. So it was a profound moment. I was in 2004 at the University of Notre Dame. I was brought there through immense grace through scholarships, the possibility to really educate myself and uplift myself, to align myself with my purpose. And yet, towards the end of the studies, I come across this book, Autobiography of a Yogi. I don't know if you've heard about the book. A very powerful book, which for me is Guru Tattva in itself. The essence of the Guru principle works through this book. It's not just a book. And it touched me deeply, you know, it totally opened my eyes. It opened my eyes to a whole new dimension of our being. And after reading this book, all I was really, really passionate about was to somehow get across the world to India, get a hold of those masters and yogis, and start working on through this yoga, kriya, various methods to actually start changing my energy blueprint so that I can shine the way they shine, so that that divinity can manifest through me as well. So Yogananda says a beautiful thing that there are so many sideways, you know, and when we start working towards going beyond ego identity, there are so many traps and delays, and somewhere we get lost. Only when we stay in the presence of the awakened ones can we be sure that we will use this one lifetime to reach there. So my wish was to somehow be around the masters. That was my number one. So I became a yoga teacher, and in 2007, in Dubai, where I was living at the time, I met Mohanji. At that time, I didn't recognize him as a master, but with, over the years, what I witnessed through his own process of awakening and the work that he does inspired me greatly. And one of the things that he's done was when he lost his daughter at the age of 4, instead of going into depression and alcohol, he started this ACT Foundation. ACT Foundation is a platform where you express love beyond all boundaries. There are no memberships, there are no fees, nothing is mandatory, there are no rules. It's just your heart and your desire to serve. And I realized I became, over the time, the president of the ACT Foundations, active in various countries across the globe. So I'm like the big title, global president. But it's actually really an honor to be in the line of work where we are serving peace through expression of love. So the usual way of creating our reality is from the level of thought, word, and action. This is how the karma works out, right? So we have taken it backwards. We start from the right action. You start from right action. And it's so simple. It's so simple that sometimes the essence of the truth is way too simple, but we just don't do it. People are lost in their lethargy, in their self-centeredness, having many excuses and not finding the time to serve, right? So when you create a platform and when you really feel that, you inspire others to come out of those shells, come out of those cocoons, and actually do the service. And we don't just serve, if I'm Christian, I serve only the Christian community. If I'm Muslim, I only serve the Muslim community. No. We go across all man-made barriers, and through that love expressed through action, you start actually making a difference. So on one hand, I would say that to reach peace, we break across the barrier of alien other. This is what we were studying at Notre Dame in doing my master's degree. Alien other is the concept where you cocoon yourself and you are not able to relate to the enemy, right? You are not able to break that barrier. But if you go into charity work, you will be able, because your heart will expand. Your very energy blueprint will change when you serve. And that's why service is actually present in all the religions. This is the golden thread that connects us, but it has to be lived, right? So when we start serving, this is one thing. Another thing is discipline and responsibility. So we teach our children to become responsible for Mother Earth, to feel responsible when you see somebody else suffering. It's our responsibility to reach out to them, right? So when we raise them in this way, and we live that through our own example, then we can fly the global peace on the wings of discipline and love. So that would be our answer. Yeah.
First of all, I would like to express my deepest and most sincere gratitude to the Parliament for allowing me to be here. Can an atheist and a believer be right at the same time, coexisting in peace? The answer to this question is yes. And that's my proposal for all of you today. So, hello everyone, my name is David Garrido Masmitjà, and I am a Dream Mentor, which is a new methodology of happiness and personal growth that I have developed on the basis of psychologists, of psychology, coaching, NLP, neuroscience. The central pillar of my methodology is the law of attraction. And the most revolutionary part is the development of our psychic abilities, esotericism, religions, and spirituality. A method that has been recognized as scientific by the Ministry of Education in my country, and a method that allowed me to become the youngest judge in the world at the age of 25 for civil and penal laws. Now, given the important role that the law of attraction plays in our life, I also am the organizer of the first International Congress of the Law of Attraction ever in history. Next edition is going to be on the 5th of May of this year, 2019, and it's going to be about the relationship between your soul and your body, so your brain as well. My methodology allows us to find peace among religions and between believers and atheists. It allows us to reconcile contradictions, being able to affirm something so incredible as, for instance, that there is karma and there is no karma at the same time, or that there is a creative intelligence, a creator mind that thinks us, in which everything flourishes and coexists, and that there isn't such a creator at the same time as well. Consider this: the mechanism behind wishes coming true has to be the same no matter your religion or if you are an atheist, exactly as it happens with gravity. So it's the same for every one of us, no matter our religion. We are all falling down, right? My methodology proposes to build a bridge, a mental structure to understand the concept of the divine and non-divine, so that's catchy, and to understand spirituality and religions above any specific religion or belief. But it takes to be willing to open your mind to do so. Because in order to study anything, we must indeed detach ourselves from it and place ourselves above it. Today, I'm presenting that umbrella mental structure to you. For if we, and especially from early ages, so our children, place our faith in the context of religious freedom, and better if we do it right from the beginning, then we will have interfaith peace. We will be creating our own reality. And peace, in this sense, it's not to an end, but peace for itself. And for me, it's the freedom, the religious freedom, to choose what to believe or not to believe, and as well, your right to change from one religion to another without the fear of being punished or the fear of being, pointed with a finger. So that's why the Dream Mentors motto says that we will be happy now because we become what we think about. So thank you very much and enjoy this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is, once again, is Imam Shafi Abdul Karim, I'm from Nigeria. First of all, I'd like to thank the Parliament for Religion for having me, and the panelists and my co-colleagues. Thank you so much. Well, I wouldn't like to take much of our time and have a presentation. Just within the next 5 minutes, I should be through. Basically, I would like to define peace as a state of tranquility, comfort, and value for life. At the same time, I would like us to look at peace as opposite of conflict or violence or war. Peace is from God, meaning that peace is godly. And conflict is from Satan, meaning it's satanic. And we must agree that religion have come to represent Almighty God. And their conflicts come to represent Satan. And if you look at the history of man, you would agree with me that Satan raised against the creation of man and the existence of man. So, to achieve peace in the world, then there must be a struggle, and that struggle is to fight the satanic influences in man and its environment. In doing this, in our own context, in our perspective in Africa, especially in Nigeria, we have come to realize that the conflict around the world that is actually affecting the peaceful coexistence of the people is the lust for mundane things, our urge for acquiring those things that are embedded in this world rather than the hereafter, or using them to achieve the hereafter. We've looked at the strategic approach of building peace in the minds of the people. In a society where there is hunger, definitely there cannot be peace. In a society where there is no social justice, you cannot find peace. In a society where there is oppression, you cannot find peace. In a corrupt society, you cannot find peace. And invariably, if you want peace, then we must fight that common enemy, which is injustice. And in our own context in Nigeria, we have decided to mobilize the interfaith community because we know that we have a common goal to share. Our differences is very, very tiny and slim. And we are not saying you should drop what you believe in, but we have a common goal to achieve, and that is to achieve safe space for humanity. The Quran, in Quran chapter 4, talks about humanity before religion. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. I call you mankind. It didn't say I call the Muslims or Christians mankind. We are all mankind. Fear God. And at the same time, that God that have created you from just one soul. So we all came from one soul. And that soul is what we call humanity, and it must be protected. In our own context, we felt that there is a problem of sustainable development. And that is what, in Africa, you go around Africa, you find out that poverty is the only one of the major factors causing conflicts and violence and stopping us from having peace in that part of the world. And where there is poverty, definitely there can never be peace. So my definition of peace is that we must ensure that we fight poverty, we fight corruption, we fight social injustice. Once we are able to do this, then there will be peace of mind. There will be peace in the nation, and there will be global peace. I would like to connect back to our first panelist who talked about that the three school of thought of peace, that peace is not achievable. Well, it's not achievable, you can manage peace. And in managing peace, you must take some preventive measures. And those measures is what we have tried to do in Nigeria. We set up what we call the religious leaders, the interfaith community for, we call them insider mediators. And these insider mediators is to go around and ensure that we build understanding among religious organizations and institutions. We also look at engaging religious leaders, which is what you're saying. We also engage the youth and the women, ensuring that they have sense of belonging in the community, fighting. We also engage the military because they are the one fighting Boko Haram, and we felt that they must use, instead of using firearms, they must engage and resort into negotiation with them. We also look at the elders farmers, various conflicts in Nigeria. We have different approach for this, but time will not allow me. We look at anti-corruption in Nigeria, which is one of the deadliest enemy of peace in Nigeria, because you cannot have peace when some few people have been inflicted with satanic influences of cutting away the resources of the country. We look at our children, they are the future of our future generation. How do we engage them and get them? But we also engage the media, and also we engage those that are responsible for taking care of our future generation. And this is how we have come up with a proactive approach into peace building in Nigeria and Africa. Thank you.
Great. So thank you all for introducing yourself and sharing a bit about your work. For the rest of the panel, we're going to go into a little bit more informal setting. So we're going to move away from the podium and just speak from our chairs. And I want to pick up where a lot of you left off. So I'm going to start with Devi. And you talked about the ACT Foundation and the concept of selfless service, and how it's the one common denominator or one common platform that binds all religions and spiritual paths together. I was hoping you could share an example from your work of how you've seen that connection across religions of selfless service come to life in driving towards an interfaith peacemaking.
I wanted to request the technical team if they can show one photo which I requested them earlier. Through the charity work, we start living the heart-centered path, and we start healing ourselves from within and opening up to the other. Now, I'm a child of war. Turn into this, I don't want to call it satanistic energies or whatever, but it's definitely not what we think a person is. Suddenly they change. And as I contemplated, as I studied the topic, I have understood that the force opposite of love is fear. Opposite of love is not hatred, it is fear. When the fear happens, it's a fertile ground for all these monstrous things to happen. So even people who commit crime, they're actually afraid, right? So if we want to bring peace, we need to first make ourselves so strong from within that when we encounter these people, when we encounter these situations of global craziness around us, like when suddenly the energy of war starts, the story, the nationalism, this and that, we remain strong and centered in the heart. And this has a lot to do with awareness. A lot of these interfaith dialogues speak about dialoguing. This is mind dialogues. I would like to talk about the awareness, which is beyond the mind. Awareness is beyond the mind. And awareness is of vertical direction. And this is what I understood once I had one of my spiritual experiences, which kind of started happening to me after a near-death experience. I had a near-death experience in the year 2000 while I was working in Kosovo for United Nations. And even though it was a scary kind of looking experience, actually it was a big blessing, and it has opened me to a whole new world of awareness and love for divine. So I choose not to fear divine. I do not have any fear related to divine energies. And this is where I stand in this accordance with the Abrahamic religions. I must say that. That is why I have turned to yoga, because I see God as love, and I see no fear in God. So when we turn ourselves into the vibration of love, first what happens is the opening of the heart. So I feel divine has constructed us indefinitely in the image of divine, because when we start opening in awareness, we start developing a light body. And this light body is the Christ consciousness, is the divine consciousness in us. I met a saint who told me that he spent all his life meditating, he reached the bliss states, but towards the end of his life he realized he made a big mistake. He did not serve. He did not serve, and his light body could not happen. So we are made in the image of divine because we are meant to establish ourselves in that love, and we are meant to share that love. We are meant to bring that vibration into here, into this body, into this experience. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's why charity starts from that action, expressing love in action, and then it manifests into the words, it manifests into the thoughts. And the purity of intention breaks all the barriers. So the experience that I had was in Kosovo. I would like to share one of my experiences. In Kosovo, in the year 1999, I have come to Kosovo because I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to make something out of my life. I did not want to sit in a country that was led by a dictator, and I simply wanted to offer myself and this being that's in this body for the cause of peace. So I went there because that was the only place where I could actually earn money in a decent way, going back to United Nations where I started earlier in Croatia. And I was aware, I made a conscious choice. There were people, Serbs were leaving Kosovo. I, as a Serbian by ethnicity, was entering Kosovo. That was the situation. It was right after the conflict. And I believed that I just put my faith on test. I believed that whoever comes across me who hates me, my love will be so strong that they will not harm me. I just believed that. And I lied to my parents. I did not tell them that I'm going there because they were not there yet. It was a personal choice. And I went into a dragon's mouth, literally. I was just a young girl, age 22, and I went there without any protection. When I came to the UN building, I got a job because of my qualifications and previous experience, but they told me you will not have any bodyguard. Don't think you're going to have a bodyguard walking around with you. And I have a pretty Slavic face, so the Albanians in Kosovo can recognize me easily, plus my accent. So I knew that the word will spread. And it was just a matter of days when the tests came my way. The first one was, I was just walking down the street in Pristina, the capital of Kosovo, and there was this man coming towards me, maybe like 10 meters away from me. And he just went spot on. He started talking something with the body language of complete violence, like the blinded person with animalistic energies, person blinded by hatred. And he started walking towards me with this, saying something in Albanian I couldn't understand. And it was very obvious that he was about to attack me, right? So in that moment, there was nobody around to help. and it was just a moment of divine providence. It just descended upon me at that very moment that with all my might, with all my power, I should focus my love into I should imagine like a golden light in his chest, and I should put all my attention on divine in him. Because even though he's blinded by fear coming from the mind, deep inside him there is divine. It's there in every person, in every criminal, in every extremist or liberation army fighter or whatever. They all have it, right? So in that moment, I just went, you are beautiful, you are divine, I love you with all my heart. So this all happened within 3-4 seconds, right? It's not like I had a lot of time to prepare. It just came as an insight, I applied it, and as he was coming towards me, within this couple of seconds, his face just changed, he just became milder, and then he just passed by me like a wind. And I just continued walking, and I felt exhilarated. You know, I felt, oh my God, what just happened? And it was a proof of what I really believed. So divine gave me that experience, and unless I came into such a situation, I would have never experienced it properly. So when I did my master's degree at Notre Dame, I met people of different faiths, and Quakers, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with Quakers. They sit in a circle and they do this practice. Imagine the golden ball of light in the chest. And so I said, oh my God, you know that as well? I got that. So that's why I understood, as I said, that the thread, the golden thread that connects us is that love. It's just how much can we live it? How much can we apply it? How much can we not be afraid in the moments where our life is threatened, where we can lose everything? Right? So I remember when the war started in former Yugoslavia, there was this image of a baby fried in the oven that was played on TV. So the Serbs said, this is the Serbian baby fried in the oven by the Croats. The Croats showed the same image on their TV saying, this is the Croatian baby fried in the oven by the Serbs. This will be done to you. And this kind of imagery, the nationalistic talk, the hate talk, using the same symbols from the World War II when there were atrocities happening. I've seen all this, right? And this is where I come to the point where when this happens around us, when this kind of energies start happening, when this kind of talk happens, when people around you change their mind completely and they become blinded, what do? Like, what can I do? So just like this golden ball, another experience happened one day. I just suddenly saw myself. I can't really put it into words, but it's like a tree. The tree, which is made of energy, drawing from up and all the way down, and it's alive. And it's like a vertical creation of energy running through my central axis, through my being. And I can see buildings falling apart, people screaming and running around, complete chaos, fear, destitution. And I'm within this vertical column. And I exist in that energy. And I'm untouched. Right? So I somewhere understood that this is actually our aim. If we want to bring peace, if we want to ground the peace, it has to happen through our spine. Spine is the stairway to heaven. And that's why I turn to the India and the ancient teachings, because they have known it all along. That vertical dimension of our being is the answer for peace.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the other stuff maybe I will talk later. I want to show another example. If you can just show that photo very quickly. The other one, this is Moanji. The other, yeah. This is what I want to say. This is a lady who is a leprosy, victim of leprosy. And this is what I appreciate about India the most. When you come to India and you see the poor people, and then you see this kind of a smile on the face of a person whose fingers are falling off, her eyes are popping out, who has no money and no help and no medical aid or nothing. But when she saw me, some white girl came from somewhere in the other part of the world, she smiled like this. And in her smile, I saw God.
On a similar note, I want to turn to David. You talked about this principle of law of attraction, and so and how it can help all religions again to coexist in peace and harmony. So I'd love if you could share a little bit about that, either through an example or tell us a bit about what might be missing in the current interfaith context that's preventing the law of attraction from helping us achieve that peace and harmony.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, the law of attraction is a very misunderstood concept. It's actually the balance, the equilibrium between the both polarities of all that is, so the spiritual world and the material world. This balance states that whatever is in one side has to be also in the other side. And Debbie's experience is, I believe, one of the examples that we could use to understand. When she was thinking about that man, telling him, I'm loving you, you are divine, and so forth, the law of attraction immediately responded and created that world for her, so that that man could pass and leave her alone. I believe that's the most essential idea to that. Why? Because the law of attraction is actually what we are using here. We are thinking and feeling things, and that combination states a vibration, and that vibration is copied by the law of attraction, and you get it back. So when it comes to interfaith peacemaking, and we say, for instance, the other co-panelists, Hushman said that there are some people whose concept of peace was, okay, but I will get rid of my enemies first. So that in that case, that person is thinking about those people with kind of anger, and even though he's thinking about peace, is a peace with an anger feeling. So he is creating an environment in which those enemies are going to reproduce, even though he may be working towards peace. So many times we will have to, or most of the times, not to say always, never say always, but it's always actually, you have to balance what you are thinking and feeling, because the way you are thinking and feeling, it's inspiring your action and the vibration, and therefore, if your action comes from a mixed vibration, the results of that action will be mixed as well. So you may find peace in some areas, but enemies in other areas. But if you come from inner peace, that's why it's so vital, that experience of love and that experience of compassion and that experience of happiness and what do you believe. If you choose that kind of belief system, if you choose those ways of thinking, you are vibrating that, you will feel that love, you will feel that happiness, and you are creating that environment for yourself. For me, it has been an inspiration, because that allowed me to understand that we are creating our own religion, meaning that if we believe in a vengeful God, God, ask and it is given, will begin to behave in a vengeful way. But if you believe in Him as a loving God, He will begin to behave accordingly. And if you don't believe in a thinking God, you know, a non-personal agent, but in a substance, it will begin to behave in that way. That's how there is an unconditional love from all that is to all of us. All that is loves us unconditionally, and we are here to choose whatever we want to experience, and that's why I invite you to be happy and to be yourself, and that would be my main message ever. So I want you to come out from this room with something in your head. Is the idea of being happy and being authentic, being yourself. Thank you.
I'm going to turn to Hushman next, because all three of our other panelists have referenced the statements that you made at the beginning. And my question for you is, you've been an academic for quite some while, but you've also done grassroots work in Bangladesh and perhaps other places too. And so you talked about this tension you see between the concept of peace, but the reality that you see around you, and why, you gave 3 different reasons why people may not really want peace, or why it's not happening. So from your experiences at the grassroots as well as an academic, how do you see those two coming together? And the panelists, how would you respond to the other panelists in terms of what they've raised about your question?
Thank you very much. Is it okay? Well, thank you very much. Yes, I lived in Bangladesh for about 10 years, and talking about poverty, in the textbook, from an academic point of view, we never can define poverty. If we want to know what is poverty, we have to live with poor people. That is the only way we can understand what is poverty. Poverty cannot be defined. The United Nations define poverty as $1.25 a day. That is not poverty. I live with poor people. I know what is the meaning of poverty. Peace cannot be made if we don't take care of the poor people. How can we live with, right now, today, tonight, more than 1 billion people go to bed with no food and with no necessities of life? Therefore, when we talk about the real life, I think we have to somehow redefine this concept of spirituality. The concept of spirituality must come to the practical level, rather than just referring to a vague definition to God. Yes, we believe in that the spirituality is of higher nature to human being, but that's more than that. The only way we can take care of the poor and care of a lot of other problems is to redefine the spirituality. Currently, we are losing two groups of people, the younger generation and the secular thinkers. Look at the churches and other religious organizations. We are losing the younger generation. And currently, more than 1 billion people who do not believe in religion are taking distance from spirituality. So once we define or redefine the spirituality, we can include the youth and the secular thinkers to the concept of spirituality. The secular thinkers may get distance from religion, but they cannot get distance from the spiritual principles. And let me give you an example. We are all aware of this global financial crisis that started in 2008. And I remember those days that the government, the economists, and the central banks said that the root cause of this global financial crisis is money. And therefore started to cure the problem through money, through interest rate, printing more money, all kinds of activities that started with the concept of money. When we deal with this issue of money, especially monetary policy and fiscal policy, we have to get the result in 2 years' time. 10 years is passed, and still America and Europe has not come out of the financial crisis. Look at the last couple of years. The experts now say that the root cause of this global financial crisis was not money. It was lack of honesty and trustworthiness and truthfulness and mismanagement of money and compassion. That was the root cause of this global financial crisis. Therefore, the secular thinkers, when they come face to face with problems, they recognize spiritual principles, even if they don't agree with religion. So we have to redefine this concept of spirituality that we can include especially the younger generation. This younger generation grow up in front of computer. They want to know some scientific and sensible answer to some of the philosophical questions we have in religion to make them happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ushman. So, sure, quickly.
That's really beautiful, and that's exactly what I strongly feel. Yes, we have to make a distinction between spirituality and religiosity. And true spirituality respects religions as the forms or the paths to divine. But the young people of today, if I may note, many of the souls that are coming now as new generations, they have spiritual maturity. And this is the whole process of the global awakening on this planet. So if you have a naughty child whom you have to beat all the time and threaten with a stick, that's one thing. And the other thing, when you have a mature child who's behaving nicely and you just nourish him with love, what is the difference, right? So if there is a mature soul, if there's a child that doesn't need to be threatened with a stick of hell, why do we need to use that stick? So this is why many of the souls are gravitating now towards the paths of love. And experiential spirituality is what I chose as my path. And the teachings of the great masters who have gone from the ego-based identity to love-based identity, expanded cosmic consciousness, and I'm blessed to live with one of them. They are the ones who have mastered the mind. And that means that you have expanded your consciousness where it overflows, and it's natural to share. And that brightness that they radiate just fuses all around and is shared just like honey. So when we have one person awakening fully spiritually, it's a big accomplishment for the entire humanity. And that's why they bow to masters in India. Right? We should all honor those who have walked this path, Because sooner or later on our soul's journey, we shall all go through that process. Moving from the self-centeredness into natural way of giving. Not because I want to take a photo and be applauded by people, because I really find it's natural. It's part of who I am. And this is how masters are. So that brings me to the topic of the greed. Self-centeredness and greed are also, aside from the fear, the other cause of war and lack of peace is greed and self-centeredness. Accumulating and more. This is our Western society. We are taught to shop until you drop, you know? Keep on going, keep on accumulating. These are our values. This is what we teach our children. Because less need, more peace. Less desire, more peace. True masters are the ones who say, I have everything and I need nothing. They do not only say that, they actually feel that the whole universe is in them. They need nothing from anybody. They are here to serve. So this is the ideal. This is one of the things Mohanji was saying, that we need to write children's lullabies and stories that celebrate the beings, human beings walking in human body who have achieved that state. That's how we bring peace.
So on that note, I'm going to turn to Imam Shifu. So as Devi just noted, greed is one of the things that's stopping us. And you work, you also work on a number of other things in Nigeria. It's quite extensive. You've worked on prison reform, Boko Haram issues, farmer-herder conflicts, and that's just to name a few of the things. So many of us who are in the space of peacemaking or interfaith peacemaking, and particularly the younger generation that have been referenced, that goes by everyone, struggle to maintain that balance between breadth and depth and to figure out where to start. How do you choose which issues to focus on, and how do you maintain the balance between these issues?
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Yeah, our focus is just one, and that focus is a strategic approach to peace building. We felt that the mind, the heart, is crying and is being injured by some societal inadequacies. And the mind also will go into the spirit, the inner consciousness of man, to agitate for its right. We all have right to peace and tranquility. We all have right to sustainability of our life and our children and the generation to come. Anything that deprived us from that, we want to fight it out. And taking it from our first focus is to educate. And most of what we do, or we're doing in Nigeria, is to break the vicious cycle of ignorance, even as it affects religion. So our focus to start from the religious community, the Interfaith community themselves, to understand the basics of religion, which is even the whole essence of all the discussion we've been having, which is about humanity, love. And that is the core value and the cornerstone of religion. I did my research. All the religions of the world uphold one thing, and that is sacrosanct, and that is respect to human dignity, love. Love. And that is all we've been saying here. If that is not achieved, if we are able to achieve love, then there will not be religion. And in doing this, we ensure that we preach the word of love in the minds of our interfaith community, for them to see that all other issues that we have is as a result of lack of love we have for ourselves. If you talk about conflict, I'm fighting other religions because I don't love. It's because we lack love between ourselves. Because love precedes religion. Even within it, in Islam, that's what the Prophet of Islam said, that you are not a believer of religion
except you want for your neighbor what you want for yourself. And the definition of neighbor is not about your Muslim neighbor. He said 40 houses, first 40 houses by your right, by your left, front and back, they are your neighbors. So I cannot have 40 Muslims living by my right alone. I have Christians, I have pagans, then you must love them. And for this reason, if you have love for your community, for your society, for your country, then you would engage in corruption. You would ensure that people have what they deserve in the society. And without giving dues to those who deserve those dues, or giving rights to the people, then there will be problem. And we will not be able to solve the problem we have around the world today, and we cannot build any peace, because the foundation of peace is love. And that is why I said all the activities we're doing, all our work, just come to one thing, and that is the spread of love. And that is why the Interfaith community is engaging the political actors, the state actors. The fact that good governance is key to ameliorating or reducing all sorts of vices in the society. If I'm praying, and the Quran says that if you are not comfortable, in terms of you are not at peace, don't pray. Prayer is about you being at peace. وَإِذَا أَتْمَنَنْتُمْ فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ. If you are not at peace, you cannot pray. You cannot practice religion. For instance, there is war. How do I pray? How do I go to the mosque? How do I go to church? If there is hunger, I'm not safe. There can never be a safe space for us to discuss. I want to discuss with people that are hungry. If you are talking about rejuvenating the soul, the mind, the first aspect of rejuvenating the soul, the mind, that method may work in some other countries, but it may not work in some other countries. In the African context, where there is poverty, then you cannot talk about building the mind. First thing you do is to give them what to eat. In a situation whereby people don't have shelter, do you get what I'm saying? And you are talking about peace of mind. It's not possible. Or you want to train the mind spiritually. It's not possible. You must give shelter first. And that is why in Nigeria, what we focus on is to ensure that the basic social needs of the people are provided for. Then, once that is done, then we cannot go back to spirituality or religion. We have put our minds together and look at the common things that brought us together, and that is sustainable development, social justice. And that is why all the programs we do just is harnessing or focusing on one thing, and that is the yearning for love and the space for humanity. And that is exactly what we are doing. Boko Haram fighting, why are they? When we did the Boko Haram study in 2015, we asked them questions about the returnist Boko Haram. Why are you in this? The common factor is poverty. The common factor is poverty, which is relative. It could be lack of jobs, employment, it could be lack of food, and whatever. And we know what is going on in our country because people are hungry. So they are easily deceived as foot soldiers to join in the Boko Haram. And like now, they've been decimated, but not as some, the aid workers, 2 of the aid workers were just murdered recently. 2 female aid workers. They are both Muslims. So it's not, Boko Haram is not fighting for Islam. Rather, it's fighting on religious basis. They are only fighting for a political space. And that is all. Because if they can kill Muslims, then what are they fighting for? If they can kill Christians, then what are they fighting for? So why are they into extremism, violence? Because they have been neglected for long. And some people came to make use of them against the state. And that is what is happening there. If you are talking about herders, farmers, they've been together and been having for conflict time immemorial. Why now do we now have it as a global issue? just because some people have interest in that. And why we are working on that? Because we are also integrating into farming, and we felt that there must be, we must ensure, we must be able to build peace among these two, because they are very, very key to our economy. Why are we talking about corruption? Because that is the bane of our problem. And once, if we want Nigeria or Africa to be great, then we must kill corruption. And if you want spirituality to thrive in Africa or in anywhere, you must kill corruption, because it's a basis for social injustice. And when people are not getting what is due to them, as at when due, then it takes to violence and conflict. And that will be difficult for anyone to build peace. People have been building peace, doing peace building programs for long, internationally, globally and locally, but they have not achieved anything until we started working on the social issues, the economic issues of the people. If I call people to a meeting that want to discuss, they will ask you, is there anything for us? Because they are hungry. So if you are not putting anything on the table, they will not come and discuss with you. They cannot afford. I came to this parliament right from Nigeria. I sponsored myself. Nobody sponsored me. Because of what? Because I have interest in this. So that is why I'm here. So I even lobby to be among the panelists, because I want to tell the world what is going on in my country. And I've made my point, and I'm fulfilled doing this. Thank you.
So we have about 10 minutes left, and I do want to give a chance for some questions from the audience. So I think we probably have time for 2 questions. Great to see you, and we have a mic for you, and our lovely volunteer is going to bring it to you.
First of all, thank you all. This has been very, very informative, very helpful. Hearing all the very many perspectives, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes. So I have a question for you, Debbie. All of you have been involved with peace in one way or the other, but there are those of us sitting in the audience that are individuals. And so I'm really wondering, what is it that we as individuals might be able to contribute to the whole and to bring about peace in the world?
Yes, as I said, since I was 14, when the war started in former Yugoslavia, I've been asking myself this question. And during the studies, we observed the grassroots level up measures, then the top down measures, then this and that. And as Abdul Karim said, that social aspects are very important, the financial, the Marjo says, for the hungry, food is God. And it really is that way. There's no point preaching anything if somebody's hungry. So if we want to serve peace, there's not one formula that works for each location. But the thing is that be aware, be centered, center yourself in the heart, see what is the situation around you, and see what you can do. So what we can do is that we can selflessly, without expecting anything in return, share our talents, share our resources, share our love with those who are in need. Right? So that is the point. When the war in former Yugoslavia started, if we had groups of people who were nurturing selflessness, awareness, spirituality beyond religiosity, I don't believe it could have happened. It wouldn't hold ground. But we were in a country that used to be communist, then suddenly this nationalism became popular, and all the ethnic groups belonged to their little churches, and each church was fighting against the other, and the priests were blessing the killings, and this whole thing was going on. We didn't have the bridge. We didn't have the bridge. And I must say that 2 years ago we went to a place in Sarajevo, in Bosnia, where some of the biggest atrocities were happening. And you wouldn't believe there is a pyramid there, a naturally formed Bosnian pyramid. You can check it on Discovery Channel. And anybody who has any basic sensitivity to energy will realize that there is great energy there. Just imagine, out of that mud, of all that pain and war, there's this pyramid that has emerged, and it was there all along, but now it's becoming more and more active. So sometimes I guess it's necessary to destroy something to start anew, the phoenix bird to come out. So we were there, this Bosnian pyramid, and there's this spiritual master, Mohaji from India, and there were people from all parts of former Yugoslavia, from different ethnic groups, who came to listen to him talk, who came to do meditation. You know, and I had tears in my eyes. You know, honestly, I've not seen this before. And Mohaji smiled and he said, it took an Indian man to bring all of you here together. Because in Bosnia, they have Serbs, Croats, Muslims, Bosnian Muslims, they have 3 different versions of history. They're learning in the same schools different histories. They all have their interpretations. Each one is pointing the finger at the other. So whenever you blame another, you lose your power. You're not assuming responsibility, right? This is the point. So that's where we said that it's the love and responsibility. We need these 2 ingredients to make our peace happen. And for anything with longevity, the main ingredient is love. If you look at anything in history, where there was no love, it was not passing the test of time. In India, they call Maya, is the illusion. Maya means that what is measurable. And love is unmeasurable. It cannot be measured. It can only be experienced and radiated and shared. So I feel as individuals, some people are not really drawn to really work towards their spiritual awakening, but they can make initial steps. Initial steps of this social service, assuming responsibility and sharing what you have. So instead of focusing on the resources, we focus on the source. When we focus on the source, the resource will come. Thank you.
I'm going to ask David as well.
Yes, I would like to make a complementary answer to yours, because I know the question, meaning, okay, I can help my neighbor, for instance, giving him or her food one day, but what am I doing when I'm at home, and why am I praying when I pray, for instance? Now, that's why I collected some experiments. I would like to talk about 3. The first one is one of Rhine, the Dr. Rhine, in 1996. It's called The Effect of Conscious Intention on Human DNA. And then we have the Garayev, Grigorev, Vasilev, Poponin, and Cheglov experiment in 1992 about the effect of DNA on photons. Our DNA affect these photons here outside. And then my own experiment as well in 2017, which it's about 4 experiments that shows us that we are shaping this reality. And the Orm Johnson, Dilbeck, and Alexander experiment in 2003 about that when we are experiencing those emotions and those feelings, we are affecting society, and we only need the square root of 100% of the population to do these practices to affect a society, a full society. So when you are preaching, when you are praying, when you are doing your offerings, that vibration that your thoughts and feelings are producing is affecting the collective society around you, the whole society around you. And as I like to say, we only need the square root of 100%. 100% of a population is 1 person, and we don't need it full. We need just the square root of a person. So we have an incredible power here.
I'm going to take one more question. We just have like 3 minutes left. Go ahead.
I don't think.
1 second, the mic.
More than a question, I think I have a comment and a concern. As we peacemakers and peace workers, how we express ourselves, and when we say I'm fighting war and fighting corruption, it makes me very concerned, because we need to hold the problems with love, as Devi was mentioning and kind of educating in yourself as well. So I think when we talk about fighting, that just that fighting image, the word vibration of the word while fighting has a bigger impact. So how can we hold a crying baby kind of a thing in care, with care, in a similar way we can hold these problems with deep care. And again, the ability, love to me is the ability to hold two polarities together at the same time. And that's what manifests love in a way. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, given that we are about 2 minutes away from when this session is supposed to end, I'm going to ask each of our panelists to make a closing remark, and to keep your remarks to about 30 seconds. But the question that I'm posing to each of you, and we started on that end, so we'll start on this end and work our way that way, is picking up on this note about each of us in some way here. What brings us to the Parliament is that we are all peacemakers. And we're all probably at different stages of our own journey in that peacemaking. So what is the one piece of advice that you would give to someone just starting out on their own path of interfaith peacemaking? In 30 seconds.
Thank you. First of all, my advice is that the person must first of all build an interest in the peacemaking work, and at the same time identify like minds, and also identify the problems that is that they want to mediate or work on, and finally they need money to do that. In our context, anyway, perspective. Thank you.
For me, my advice would be allow the other person to feel and to express what they have to feel and express, and never, ever tell them what to do. Just let them discover and ask them questions so that they can find the answers. You may guide them, but never impose what you see. I hate those people who says, well, I hate, you know what I mean. The idea is, don't impose that, for instance, oh, you in a past life you were so and such. Instead, let the people discover what they were so that they are happy with that.
Thank you.
Well, I would just summarize what I said before, to start making a difference and start serving peace. Start walking from where you stand, right? Start working from where you stand. See what are your talents, what is when you're in alignment with the truth, what is it where you can express in the most beautiful way, and start expressing. It's very simple that way. And then also try to be in company of people of higher vibration. Keep your focus onto the positive. Because if we keep gossiping about others, criticizing others, Trump this one, that, we keep hearing all the stories all the time, and we give our energy to that. So just say, I refuse to energize any of these things. My focus is on the positive. And especially when people talk negative about you, which invariably will happen when you start radiating in more and more light, that's the time to increase your positive action, right? That is the time to let your actions speak louder than your words.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My advice is that have the ownership of all faiths, because that's the only way we can say that Creator is one. Because we have a monopoly in Creator. Creator is one. The only way we can be different is manifesting the attributes of God in ourselves and serving others. Otherwise, we all have one Creator. So we have to have ownership of all faiths. And that term of manifestation of God is a very nice term. That all these prophets of God manifesting 100% of the attributes of God. But we also manifesting attributes of God. And if we want to compete, we have to compete in attributes of God and serving others. Otherwise, we cannot compete in Creator. Creator is one. It is monopoly. We cannot compete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for joining. I hope that you all come away from this panel with something that you can apply to your own journeys of peacemaking. Our hope in putting this panel together was to move away from the abstract talk about peacemaking to the more practical approaches. And I think each of our panelists coming to us from across the globe have brought something to share from their own experiences. And so I know I'm coming away with a couple of pages of notes, and I hope that you all at least have one note that you can take away. Thank you.